Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Madcapper, and this right here is another video on Raid Shadow Legends. I have not put out a couple of I built them so you don't have to. The reason is I'm waiting for a non-force affinity clan boss, and of course that means me waking up at 4 in the morning. Or, you know, maybe just this game not screwing me every rotation. I've had 3 in a row. Hopefully tomorrow, because I am on the road Wednesday night through next week on a nice little long weekend vacation to go visit my wife. So hopefully we can get that done tomorrow. Cross your fingers. Anything literally anything but force affinity, and I can do the video with force affinity, but it's, you know, it's the team that I put together to showcase the one champion. They just happen to be 3 magic champions, so it's just gonna be, it's not going to be as impactful. I want something that's neutral, and I might have to get up at 4 in the morning. Well, maybe we might be getting up at 4 in the morning tomorrow, just to film that, so I can get something in the books. Anyway, in order to appease the masses and the algorithm by putting out content until that's ready, I thought we would have a good opportunity here to talk about the 5 brand new champions that have been added, as well as, of course, the fusion, which starts today. But before we do that, if you'd like to help me out, we need 3 things. We need subscriptions, we need likes, we need watch time. I mean, I can't force you if you're bored. I'm sorry. But we also need engagement. So, if you'd love to leave a comment down below, who's your favorite of these 5 champions and why, that would help engagement and help me out, and it's free. So, let's get on to the champions. We have Fjord Wolfheart, a Dwarven Spirit Affinity mythical champion. Legendaries all the way through after that. Admiral Blacktusk, also of Dwarves. Moto the Pearl from Ogryn. Calico the Blind from Demon Spawn. And Arashi the Riptide from the Shadowkin. Why don't we take a look at them one by one, and we'll talk about what I think of them, where they can be used. First one, mythical. Always fun to have a new mythical in here. Looks pretty cool. They always do. Has a totem on his back, which is what you do when you're like, I'm going to go out into the woods and perform some sort of, looks like, druidic sacrifice. I didn't know there was dwarven druids, but why not? Why can't there be? There is, right here. He brings his own totem. He brings receipts and his own totem. I'm gonna get a little... That's lovely. Okay, so let's take a look at his first form. His first form with his stats of 22-6, 1,000 attack, 1,200 defense, 100 speed's okay. He's a support champion, so keep that in mind. His A1 attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a freeze debuff. If the target is not under a freeze debuff, we'll repeat the attack once. So I assume if the target is not under a freeze debuff from this skill, does he get 4 if they're already under a freeze debuff? Interesting thought. But this will be a potential 4-hitter A1. I think right away, think Fire Knight. 4-hitter A1 because you're not going to land the freeze. Also 4-hitter A1 on the open shield as well, with a chance to reduce turn meter with each hit because it's 50-50 chance, right? A2 block debuffs, increase speed, 3-turn cooldown on all allies for 2 turns, pretty good, and decreases the cooldown of all ally skills except this champion by 1. That's a decent skill on a 3-turn cooldown. That's pretty nice. You can do some good work with that. That's a PvE skill for sure. And then on his A3, a 4-turn cooldown, places a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, and a 30% decreased speed for 2 turns. If the enemy is from the Galleon Pact, which is the Ogryn, Lizard, Orc, and Skinwalkers. I don't know why he hates them. I mean, I guess he's wearing one of them, so that's fair. Fair point. Puts it on for 2 turns instead and grants an extra turn. Okay, so it's a 4-turn cooldown, but it's effectively a 3-turn cooldown with that extra turn. Interesting. So okay, we'll pocket that, and then whenever this champion receives a debuff from an enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the enemy for 1 turn. Occurs once per turn. This chance increases to 100% if the target is from the Galleon Pact. Really doesn't like those animal orcs and ogryns. Really has a kind of a racist dwarf. Oh, by the way, he also has an all battle increase accuracy of 80. So interesting. I don't love the synergy with Galleon Pact, or the I guess dis-synergy. I don't know, dis-synergy. I think there's no content that specifically focuses on factions. Oddly enough, faction wars, you're not warring a faction, which is what I think dwarves should have, an ultimate enemy who they. But anyway, so I don't know if they ever add that content. This guy becomes just top tier. That said, it's a pretty solid kit. I don't think he's the best freeze champion in the game, but a good decreased speed, several ways to do freeze, gets that extra turn. Could really spin out, but let's see what his second form does here. 22,635, is that the same? Yeah. But interestingly, drops the attack and gains a bunch of defense, same speed. Does get some more crit damage on this form, so this form, I suspect, will be more damage focused. He's an HP based champion on his second form. If this attacks one enemy, if it kills an enemy, resets the cooldown of one of this champion's skills. That's pretty good. I've always said, like, let's see what that HP, let's see what those multipliers were. I did check beforehand, and I just checked one champion, but it looks like Hell Hades doesn't have the multipliers on his site yet, so that'll happen soon. But interesting. Ice Quake attacks all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies under freeze, stun, fear, true fear, provoke, petrification. Each hit decreases each target's max HP by 25% of the damage up to 50%. Each hit also decreases each target's turn meter by 25%. This effect cannot be resisted if the enemy is under a freeze, stun, fear, true fear, provoke, petrification. Interesting. Also, Disciple of Torment will ignore 50% of the target's defense on a one-hitter. If the target is under a freeze debuff, ignores 100% of the target's defense instead. If the target is killed while under a freeze debuff, also places a block revive. Okay. All right, this has got now, again, it depends on the multipliers, but this has got some sauce to it. It's got some heat. And then counterattacks with his A1 whenever an enemy increases the cooldown of any of this champion's skills. Interesting. So he also kind of counters like the warlords and Alice's of the world. Hey, welcome to the game, Alice. You've been countered a month later. But one patch later, get wrecked. It is a mythical, though, so I think, Alice, you're okay for a little while, at least. Okay, well, it looks like a cool champion. I like the look of the blue. He looks like he kind of stuck his finger in a light socket, but has it look like an owl? Did he have a little fun with it? I don't know. Anyway, looks kind of neat. I like the kit. I mean, it's all dependent on damage, but I'm already kind of formulating an arena team around this guy in my head. So you start him in his base form, right? And you have someone strip buffs. That would be your primary focus. See how many buffs you can get stripped. You have a Torment on your team, which goes before him, however the speeds you figure out to tune. If you go second team, which is probably more likely, then you want to have just a bunch of survivability, maybe a one-turn stone skin with lethal on this guy. Your Torment's doing yeoman's work with some good damage and some good freezes. This guy comes in afterwards as on a freeze and then pulls this out. So you're going to attack all enemies. He's going to hit them. If they're a Galleon Pact, he gets it, but he gets an extra turn is the big point, which he then turn to his ultimate form and try to wreck him with this, into this, or this and this, or whatever case. I would also maybe someone like a Cardial with him as a lead that you can do an ally attack to get some chances on the rim cleave. I think there's some good synergy, some good opportunity here for a freeze-based team. I know one of the OG freezers, what's his name, the Ogren, has been seeing a big comeback because he does a strip freeze. If you have that with Torment and this guy, and then maybe a Reviver is your fourth, someone that can make sure that you stay alive. You could also double him up with 2 turns, right? So the first turn you're putting this up, the second turn you're going into his second form. There's some good different opportunities. I really like this guy. All depends on how much damage he can output on that HP. HP champions, not a whole lot that do crazy damage, but if he can even do good damage, I think that could be a really fun team. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll pull him. I'll just have to pull him. That's I haven't looked to see if anyone's done any damage testing on him. I imagine the test server folk have been hard at work there, so we'll see maybe with that. Okay, so that's the first. Oh, the second one is also still in here, and it is Black Tusk. Oh, he looks the exact. Though I'm getting vibes of Skyrim, to be honest with you. Like he's one of the lost dwarfs. This is the dude. This is the guy they lost. I kind of feel like that. Anyway, let's take a look at his kit. So first of all, he is a faction banner lord. What do they call these guys? I don't even remember. Faction lords, banner lords. Increases accuracy by 60. Ooh. Increases ally speed in all battles by 15. Only applies to dwarves. I wasn't a big fan of the only applies to dwarves when they or force affinity or all that stuff before. I guess he is a banner lord, so that makes sense. I don't like the fact that they lowered it to 60. Why not just give him 80? It seems like, oh, but we're giving him this 15 speed, so we're gonna have to lower this to 60. No, you don't. No, you don't. Anyway, his A1 text one enemy has a 40% chance of a stun, up to a 60%. Cannot be resisted when this champion is attacking out of their active turn. So counterattack, ally attack. Okay. Either counterattack from abilities, sets, or the counterattack buff. Okay. Removes all debuffs from all allies. Then, oh, okay. Then teams up with all allies to attack a single enemy. The allies join the attack will use their default skills. Okay, so there you go. This could be your dude with the mythical, because now you're getting an ally attack and a cleanse, and then that rim cleave is coming into play. I kind of like that. I kind of like this, and it doesn't have to be dwarves. I like that. Removes all buffs from a target enemy and places a stun on them for 2 turns. Fills this champion's turn meter by 50%. Fills this champion's turn meter by additional 10 for each debuff or each buff removed from the target. Interesting. 3 into 2 looks really good. Down to 3. So you target someone who's gotten any form of buff up, glow up sort of thing. Is it Necrit that puts all the, and so you could potentially get another turn here. Now it's not quite the same as an extra turn, because turn meter can go past 100%. We've not long since known that, so just keep that in mind. But pretty good. I kind of like his synergy with himself and with other dwarves and just in general. So what's that happens with the Unity? Oh, that's what they call him, Unity. Faction ally, if he's got 1, the buff removal and stun debuff cannot be resisted. Okay, so you bring when I pull him, of course, you bring Fjord with him, and you've already got, and then you bring in Torment as well, and then that ally attack includes an AoE, with some freezing, which then will just snowball. I kind of like this, and you can't the buff removal can't be resisted. Does that include Stone Skin? I've always been curious about that. 2 faction allies resist the cooldown of the skill when an enemy is killed while under a stun debuff placed by this champion. So bring in Torment and him. You've got your 2 faction allies. 3 faction allies. Allies deal double damage to targets under stun debuffs placed by this champion. Now keep in mind, Fjord already does have extra things that happen during any kind of lockout, including stun. But this makes an interesting. I kind of like it. What's his passive? Allies will counterattack whenever they lose 10% or more of their max HP from a single wild Hydra. I mean, unless you don't want them to attack, but most of the times you're safe with that. If there are multiple champions in the team, this skill, only one will be active. So allies will counterattack whenever they lose 10%. Whenever an ally places fills this champion's turn meter by 20%. So again, more synergy with Fjord. Wow. I think him and Fjord are going to be really good together. Maybe it's just me. But he's always going to, that 20%, same with Torment. And that gives you 2 if you have Torment, him, and Fjord together. I'm going to have to pull both these. We'll do it this weekend. No problem. Whenever an ally has attack, there's a 50% chance of placing a 50% decreased resistance and decreased speed buff on the attack for one turn. If the ally is under block damage, a killable ally or Stone Skin, the chance increases to 100%. If there are multiple champions of the team with this skill, only one will activate. or if the ally is under. Whenever an ally is attacked, there's a 50% chance of placing these on the attacker. If the ally is under block damage and killable ally protection or stone skin, the chance increases to 100%. If there are multiple champions on the team with the skill, only one will activate. Okay. 3 faction allies. Start of each round places a stone skin buff on all allies for 1 turn. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. Now you don't even have to put that 1 turn stone skin. Remember we just talked about Fjord, maybe you put him in a stone skin lethal? No, you just put him in lethal and whatever other damage dealing set, because you're going to bring Admiral back Black Tusk in. He's going to put that stone skin so long as you have 3 allies. Now, does he? I can never remember. He doesn't include it. It has to be 3 additional. So it'd have to be 4 dwarves. I mean, dust off your Trunda for damage. Is there a revived dwarf? I can't remember now. It's cute. Or maybe Molly. Molly's a good still. Underpriest Brogni. You've got a lot of options there. So you bring in Tormund, you bring in Black Tusk, you bring in Fjord, and pick your 4th. I would say Brogni or Molly. I haven't really used Granjar. I know he can be a bit of a pain, so that might be a thought. Godfrey is really nice. Nari, maybe this is Nari's chance to shine. Old school Trunda, probably not a Ganut. I don't know what Arnorn does, but I think he's pretty hyped. I don't know if he's arena. I kind of like that. I kind of like it. Have to see it, but I kind of like it. Doesn't she have? Yeah, she's got the ally protection, which is good synergy. Decrease accuracy, decrease attack. Interesting. I kind of like it. Okay, so that's 2. Took a lot of time. I like that. I like the dwarves together. I think either one of them apart's good. I think if you're pairing them with another dwarf, both of them seem to get just that much better, in my humble opinion. The next one is from Ogren, and that is Moto. The emo Ogren, Moto. He's I think he's also the Valentine's with the fusion. That's crazy. Okay, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each one has a chance to up to 70%. Wow, on a decreased defense. That's pretty OP. That's pretty big. A 75% chance of placing a stun debuff on all enemies, 100% when booked. Places an extra hit on enemies under stun debuffs. If Esma, the dancer, is on the same team, will always place an extra hit and ignore 20% of each enemy's defense. Interesting. Attacks all enemies will ignore shields. Damage increases by 75% while attacking under stone skin buffs, with enemies under stone skin. If this attack removes 1 or more stone skin buffs, grants the champion extra trait. Most stone skin hold up pretty strong, so this in the end game may not be a big deal, but I think if you get him early, especially if you get the pair early, if you're going to get this fusion and you're in the mid game or something, a lot of those stone skin are pretty fragile champions in stone skin, and you can definitely burn through them. I don't think it's a crazy deal. We'll see what his multipliers are like, but why not? Whenever this champion kills an enemy, places a stun debuff on the enemy with the highest turn meter for 2 turns. Occurs once per skill. If Esma is on the same team, this champion's skills will ignore 50% of each enemy's resistance. Also, if Esma is on the team, places an intercept stack on this champion at the start of their turn. Okay. Intercept's something that came after I left, I'm pretty sure, so it's a new ability, but it's just ability to basically, he's sacrificing himself. Ally attack on all battles by 30, that's decent. Stats, his attack seemed a little low for being a nuking champion, but you never know until you see the multipliers. Speed 99, average. I don't know. And he just carries around a makeshift not quite a cross with all the bells and whistles, literally. And is that her? Is it a sculpture of Esma? All right. I don't know. I'd have to see that guy in action. He doesn't seem crazy at the beginning. I do like the decreased defense on the A1 and the stun. Stun's 1 turn, not 2, so there are stronger AoEs out there. Maybe the synergy is the deal. The next one is Demon Spawn, and it's this creepy looking Void Affinity. What is going on here? First of all, he's appears to be worshipping Lilith, or nope, the horns go the wrong way. Are there any with the horns going out? Her? No. Okay, so he's just got to be Lilith, right? Or is it like he's simping on like? No, I don't know why this matters to me, but just thought maybe we'd see if it's one of like what's gonna happen. Okay, first of all, what the hell is this guy? He reminds me of something you would see as a wave clear mob in Diablo. So I'm kind of for it. Okay, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit ignores 10% of the target's defense. Will also ignore an additional 5% for each debuff on the target. Also steals 10% of the turn meter. Has a 50% of repeating the attack against another target, except the initial target who is under 2 or more debuffs. Occurs once per attack. So he only picks one. He's ignoring defense and stealing turn meter. And that can get pretty significant. He's got 1542 attack, so if his multipliers are reasonable, that could be pretty damaging. Attacks one enemy 2 times, places a block active skills and a decrease for 2 turns. Second hit applies a debuff spread, taking the debuff from the target and placing them on all enemies. The debuff spread will work even if the initial target is killed. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Interesting. So he's attacking one enemy 2 times, and the first one places block active, decreased defense, and the second one spreads it to the team. That can be pretty crazy on a 4-turn cooldown, but does get an extra turn if he kills someone. Unrelenting violence, attacks all enemies before attacking, places an increased accuracy on this champion. Okay. Decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns and places a 30% decreased speed on all enemies 2 turns. 3-turn cooldown. So you go this into this, and then this just comes around. Again, ally attack would be pretty strong with them. This champion's immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, petrification. Whenever an enemy attempts to place one of these debuffs on this champion, instantly activates Inducer of Panic, which is the A2. Against the enemy, doesn't set Inducer of Panic skill on cooldown. Wow. Increases the damage dealt by 5% for each debuff placed by the champion. Champion damage increase resets each time a skill is used on this champion. So interesting. So he's a hard counter to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, and petrification. So literally, they bring out 2 incredibly OP champions in dwarves as the synergy. Maybe. And then in the same patch, they hard counter that comp with this guy, who's a void, to be fair, but not a primal, not a mythical. So I think it's a good kit. I think it's a hard counter to freeze, and I've been hearing there's a little bit of a freeze meta going on. Okay. Yeah, I mean, why not hard counter in the same patch? Who's next? Oh, Shadowkin. Last one of the new champions. Then we'll take a look at the fusion champion. The last one here is Arashi. I mean, these guys always look pretty tight, pretty solid look. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has 75% chance up to 100. Stealing 1 random buff. This effect cannot be resisted if the champion's under Veil or Perfect Veil. Okay, he's an HP based champion. Always skeptical. By the way, he's also got big 28% in arena. Attacks one enemy, ignores 25% of the target's defense as well as shield and strengthen. Also ignores Stone Skin if this champion's under Veil or Perfect Veil. Oh, okay. If this champion attacks an enemy, increases the duration of all buffs on this champion by 1 turn. 3-turn cooldown. Interesting. Attacks all enemies before attacking. Places a Perfect Veil and an increased crit damage for 2 turns. This attack deals single target damage to each target individually rather than AoE. Ignores 15% of the enemy's defense, the first enemy. After hitting the first enemy, will hit every other enemy. Following the initial hit, each subsequent hit ignores 5% more of the target's defense up to 35. For each enemy killed in this attack, increases this champion's HP by 5, up to 30. So he's an HP champion. That's a 4-turn cooldown. He's going to put Perfect Veil, increase crit damage. He's going to hit champions, ignore defense. Then he's going to ignore more defense. There's no AoE reduction of this guy's damage because he's hitting each target individually. That's crazy. This could be crazy. This Arashi could be crazy. At the start of each round, places a perfect veil on this champion for 1 turn. Has a 20% chance to reflect all damage and debuffs the champion receives to the attacker. Active effect on a 2-turn cooldown when booked. If the reflected damage kills an enemy, fills this champion's turn meter by 30%, places a perfect veil on this champion for 1 turn. Notably not protected. So, okay. So he's going to put Perfect Veil on him initially. He's going to put, at the start of each round, places a champion. So he's going to have Perfect Veil entering. Then he can up that to a 2-turn Perfect Veil. He needs a Perfect Veil to do all this stuff, right? Ignore Stone Skin. And increases, if he kills the enemy, increases all buffs. So he can increase that Perfect Veil to last through a couple rounds. And if he's got a 30%, 20% chance to reflect damage, that can put a Perfect Veil on. I mean, it all comes down, as most of these nukers, it comes down to what's his multipliers on that HP. Again, there's not a lot of HP based champions that have crazy damage. There are a few, notably. Broken, one could say, needing to be nerfed, but I don't know, pretty cool. I mean, all these champions, it really just depends. Here's the thing, is like, I don't think any of those champions are going to change your game. I think there's enough champions in here, legendary champions, that any one of those is great, but I like that at least there was no dud, I don't feel. For me, maybe the closest to a dud is the Ogren, but that's unfair because I think there's a lot, he's got a lot kind of cool stuff going with him. But if I had to pick kind of the worst of the group, maybe him. But his synergy with the Fusion Champ is pretty good. Let's take a look at the Fusion Champion while we're here. Oh, she's under fragment. Esme. She looks cool. She's a barbarian. They kind of do something with the hair. Can't they use hair physics? Can't they steal Witcher 3's hair physics? Plarium. It's 2025. You've upped your game on the champion models, the rendering, the HDR rendering. Let make 2025 the year of the hair. And yeah, that's me saying that. But still, it just looks... Anyway. Ally speed in all battles by 19%. Okay. Attacks 1 enemy, 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 1 turn. Wow. That's pretty strong. Just does it. Just here you go. Attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a weaken and block buffs. Also decreases the turn meters of all enemies by 20%. If Moto is on the team, steals the turn meter instead. Pretty good. She's a support champion, so I imagine the damage isn't going to be that great. But puts a weaken, puts a block buff, puts an increased attack. That's all going to help Moto or any nuker. Plays a 50% increased accuracy and increased speed on all allies. I love that. That's one of my favorite buffs for the Hydra. That increased accuracy just makes building your champion so much easier, especially in the earlier levels and stages of your building. Increased speed is always strong. Has a 75% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies. If Moto Pearl is on the same team, has a 75% chance of stealing them instead. And that's booked to 100 on a 4-turn cooldown. So she can remove all buffs at 100%, put buffs on, and can steal them instead if Moto's on the team. And her passive, when hit, has a 15% chance of randomly changing the attacker's critical hits to weak, normal, or strong hits. Interesting. So that's pretty nice. If Moto of the Pearl is on the same team, the chance increases to 30. Okay. It's only a 15% chance, though. Even a 30% chance. Not crazy. Whenever this champion is hit, increases the turn meter of the ally with the highest attack by 50% on a 1-turn cooldown. Okay. I think she could be pretty powerful. She has to take a turn for this to happen, but that increase of 50... I think she's going to be a Hydra specialist. She gives you speed in Hydra. She's able to get your attacker to hit ridiculously high amount. She puts the increased accuracy and increased speed, so you're going even faster. Plus, there's a lowered need on the placing debuffs. She's placing a block buff for 2 turns. She's placing a weaken on a 3-turn cooldown on the Hydra, and she's increasing the attack of all your nukers, all your attack-based nukers, with her A1. Which, I mean, if you have ally attack, it's ensuring that's going to be up at all times, even though it's a 1 turn. Oh, I think she's pretty strong for Hydra. I think she's pretty OP for Hydra. I kind of want her. We might be pushing for her. See, this is why we can't have nice things. I think, oh, I can skip this one. I can skip this one, and then I'll have shards, and Amanda and I can do a shard pull. And then you want this champion, and guess what? If you want this champion, you're going to have to pull shards, so... Okay, well, I like them all. Let me know what you think. Which of the 5 do you like the fusion champion? Let me know that. Which of the 5 do you like the best? Do you find it weird that they hard countered 2 of the champions they added, theoretically speaking, in the same patch? Does it seem weird? Let me know in the comments down below. But that's all I have for you. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have I'll be able to record at least 2 of the I built them, so while I'm away I can pop those up probably Wednesday, Friday. That's the hope. Maybe I can get 3 recorded Wednesday, Fridays. Of course, I also have to do my job, so a lot of stuff going on, a lot of wheels turning. Anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.